It's the season for exposing people, okay? And they went after Diddy. They went after different people. Obviously, you got the Epsteins and you have all these different people. But they went after Dr. Andrew Huberman? Okay, so if you guys didn't know, I like Sagar and Breaking Points. They've been kind of wonky on some of their Israel coverage. But this is Sagar covering the New York Magazine situation about Dr. Andrew Huberman. If you guys don't know who Dr. Andrew Huberman is, he is a professor at Stanford University, okay? And he primarily does a podcast about like biohacking. I remember I listened to his podcast about sugar. I thought it was great. One of the best podcasts I've heard.
Just social media for your brain, stuff like that.
Yeah, what social media does to your brain, all those different things, right? And New York Magazine decided to basically seemingly do like a hit job on him. But I think they miscalculated this because Andrew Huberman, though he's been expressive about reading the Bible more and praying, which is great, doesn't position himself as like a mental health podcast.
It's not like a Jordan Peterson.
He's not a Jordan Peterson. He's not a Christian, as far as I know. Maybe he's dabbling. Maybe he's Jesus curious, but he's not came out and been professed about Christian. And the stuff that came out is kind of backfire. I don't think this is the smoking gun they thought it was.
Let's figure out what came out.
All right, go ahead.
Before I get started, I want to get a few things out of the way. First is, I'm biased in the story I'm about to cover. Dr. Andrew Huberman, he's a personal friend, to the point we've exchanged texts, phone calls, we've met in person. A lot of my anger around this is of seeing my friend smeared, but I'm also going to try and fuse my personal outrage at an injustice to a friend with some journalistic rigor and expose what I believe to be a genuine hit job that has bigger cultural implications. Let's start with the smear job itself. New York Magazine, which is a subsidiary of Vox Media, published a front page story on Monday morning titled Falling for Dr. Huberman, the private and public seductions of the world's biggest pop neuroscientist. Now,
The public and private seductions.
First of all, this is a fire cover.
Yeah, that
Whoever's designing at New York Magazine.
shout out to them. This is a great aesthetic.
This looks like a promotion for Dr. Andrew Huberman.
Yeah.
Falling for him, it's like, oh, that's like I feel like I'm falling in love with him right now.
The
Like,
private and public seductions of the world's most pop neuroscientist. Okay, you guys, I'm shocked that some of you guys haven't heard of this guy.
despite the word seduction, I still wouldn't know whether this was a hit job cover or not. This seems like just good design. Let's keep going.
you might expect the story to detail perhaps some health lies or bad advice possibly that was proven from the most popular health podcast in the world, and you open up that story. You find 8,000 words. After reading them all, you will come away with this information. Dr. Andrew Huberman, who is unmarried, engaged in simultaneous relationships with up to 6 women, according to his ex-girlfriends and lovers.
Eesh.
I'm not kidding. And if you want...
So that's the smoking gun. He was out here on some Playboy stuff. This is some of the pushback to it. Okay, I never listened to Huberman and know little about him, but I kept reading this endlessly gossipy article in this Ish magazine, waiting for a single revelation about his private adult life that merited public interest or knowledge, and never found a single one. So, allegedly, what's happening is that he dated 6 women at the same time. He was romantically involved with 6 women at the same time.
Not polygamy, just
Polyamory?
no, because that's where you're like open about it.
Okay.
Everyone knows. It's just
So he
promiscuous.
He was a promiscuous. He was a cheater.
Yeah,
He was a cheater.
he was a cheater.
And they're shocked that he's not married, by the way. He's not married.
He's definitely not Mormon.
And he's definitely not Mormon. So they're shocked that a man in his early 50s, how old is he? He's got to be in his 50s. Man in his early 50s, who's not married and doesn't have any kids.
He's 48.
He's 48. Oh, wow. He looked mad different in that photo.
Well, he grew a beard out and he let it gray.
All right. They're shocked that this dude was dating multiple women at the same time. And this is supposed to be the smoking gun that, not about his actual work. Now, I think this is reprehensible, for the record.
Yeah.
I think if you're involved in a relationship and the other person believes it's monogamous and you're cheating on them, that's filth. Like, that's gross.
Yeah.
Okay? If you are cheating in general and polygamous, polyamorous, whatever you want to call it, it's outside of God's design for you. However, if this is someone that's not a follower of Jesus, not a Christian, and he is being promiscuous in a world where sex is just a dopamine release between highly evolved animals, that's the paradigm that all this stuff is coming through. Boys can be girls, girls can be boys. You can have as many partners as you want. Body counts don't matter. None of this stuff matters. If none of this
Pursue
stuff
whatever
matters,
makes you good, feel good.
pursue whatever makes you feel good. Why is this a problem for them? Is it the deceptive part that's a problem for them? Like, I don't. How do they have any ground to stand on making any objective moral standard about any of this stuff?
The deception's the problem, but also like if you're a transformer, you don't have to disclose that you're a transformer because it's your true identity. You know what I'm saying?
Make it make sense.
Sounds like deceptive behavior in your worldview is acceptable.
If you're a transformer, you don't have to disclose this. And if someone finds out while they're dating you, they're transphobic.
Oof.
But a grown man in his late 40s who's not married, without any kids, having multiple relationships with multiple women is worthy of a news cover article. And there's no discussion about what his actual content, whether his content is good. Like, was this podcast about why we shouldn't consume sugar good or not? Like, is the actual merits of what he teaches on his podcast and in his classes aligned with truth?
John 5:24, Jesus says, "Those who believe my message and believe in God who sent me will have eternal life. They will never be condemned for their sins because they have already passed from death to life." And that is the exact theme of our latest collection, the Death to Life collection, available now through Sunday. So get yours now before it's gone forever over at blessgod.shop. I'll see you over there. Peace.
You can read the entire piece for yourself. It exhaustively details a lead up of how Huberman has self-admitted to therapy and a tough childhood, then immediately begins to parse in detail the scurrilous allegations of his ex-girlfriends who apparently have formed their own group chat to try and take him down. What is crazier is what I then found out by asking those behind the scenes. Now, according to those familiar with New York Magazine's original reach out to Dr. Huberman, the vibe started out quite a bit different. The New York Magazine's original email, which I obtained and is so unbelievable that I was given permission to read a few quotes for you here on the show, is in August of 2023, New York Magazine reporter Carrie Howley emailed saying, quote, "I am writing in the hopes that one of my big stories this year might be the phenomenon of Dr. Andrew Huberman. When my editor suggested I look into him, I basically shot him down. It didn't seem like the kind of thing I would be into. I listened to a single episode. Predictably, months later, I'm fully addicted and devoted." She continues, "Due to some of the episodes that deal with stress, I'm taking care of my mental health. It was almost like I couldn't engage or become interested until Dr. Huberman made it all profoundly concrete and chemical. I know I'm far from the only person to have experienced this change." She adds,
So she was a fangirl. That's some fangirl vibes.
Or she was equally as deceptive as he was being.
Oh, or she's either a fangirl or they are being just as deceptive to get access to him to run this article.
a few more buttery things about how much she loved the podcast, and she said and got no reply. Now, the story should have died there, right? No. Suddenly, the Huberman love affair turned into something very different. Months later, those familiar say that Huberman's colleagues, his family, and his friends from high school began to be inundated with emails from New York Magazine requesting anonymous information on Dr. Huberman. One of the emails reads as follows. Subject line, off-the-record conversation with New York Mag. Email text, quote, "In the interest of transparency, there have been serious allegations made about Andrew, as well as the academic work that he is up to these days."
Serious allegations.
What allegations?
Now, hold on a second. What serious allegations? That he was not faithful to his girlfriend? Why is that pertinent to speak to his colleagues about? And what about his work at Stanford? What are you talking about? Here it turns out nothing. Despite the author's best efforts to smear Andrew Huberman's work at Stanford and presenting him as some no-show at his own lab, insinuating that something was afoot because of its transition, Stanford itself stood up for him in the piece, saying his lab was fully operational, nothing she was insinuating was true. As for these, quote, serious allegations, again, literally, it is from his personal life. And where did these allegations come from? Well, it doesn't take a genius to see that the sources of this story are jilted lovers of Andrew Huberman's. And it appears based...
Jeez.
This man.
Am I bugging or is this just really out of pocket?
I mean, it's what, like, this behavior is not okay. The studies show that this behavior leads to destruction.
Yes, absolutely.
We all know that. We
Yes.
know this as Christians.
Yes.
But in the world of Diddy, the diddler, in the world of
This
Epstein,
man is an altar boy.
this man just had a relationship with a toxic girl, a couple of them,
A couple women at the same time.
and some messed up, communication errors.
And it sounds like he has been open about this with regards to his own mental health. The way this saga is framing this, meaning that he's had some issues from his childhood, and this is kind of the promiscuous nature is an overflow of that,
Yeah.
right?
On my conversations again with those familiar, that the reporter was able to make contact with them by literally trolling for negative comments on Reddit threads and Instagram comments. So the timeline is basically this. She asked for a profile and pretended to be a fan. He said no, or basically didn't reply. Then she connects with these jilted lovers, leaving anonymous comments on the internet. Then those claims, including incorrect ones about his work at Stanford, are presented to colleagues, friends, and family of Huberman's, including his own father, to react to. Any positive comments attesting to his character were not included in the story. The full allegations of the women were printed with complete credibility, even though many have exhibited some pretty crazy behavior in their retaliation against him. So those are the specifics of how this all came to be. But let me just put this aside right now and just say this. Let's say every word of it is true, every last word. What is the relevance of any of this? Not once in this story did they ever dispute a single word that Andrew Huberman ever said on his podcast. Not once did they prove that he is less than he says he is, including the fact that Stanford University publicly confirms that he remains not only a professor, but one who continues to publish research and teach students at this university.
This sort of stuff is what gives the credibility to the Andrew Tates. Because then he can go, the Matrix is attacking. What color is your Bugatti? The Matrix is attacking. Okay, look what they did to Andrew Huberman.
And they try to cut off Andrew Huberman from all regular media. So the only podcast he can appear on is now Andrew Tate.
Right.
So now it starts looking like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
They start looking more sane.
Right. And so I think this is like, you're doing more harm than good. You're doing way more harm than good, because then it's going to perpetuate this Matrix attack. They're coming after him. When in reality, this isn't super relevant. And that's even if it's true, like if this stuff is verified and it's true. So I think that's the part that they're missing. It's like when I talk to my friends on the left and I go, you guys really don't get it. Like, you really don't understand that there are certain creators who are helping a demographic of people, whether or not their problems are as real as they think they are. Young men are hurting.
Yeah.
That's the reality. And so you got a demographic of creators who are helping young men, and you keep coming after these guys. Then you wonder why it just platforms them more.
So do you think they came after him because he is seemingly a pro-masculinity figure right
Absolutely.
there? Although he's not even toxic. It's just the fact that he's pro-masculinity.
Yes, I absolutely think that. And shout out to Kathy. She made a great point. Kathy in our YouTube chat said, if it was a woman professor, there would be no issues. If it was a woman professor, this would be on some like, she's sexually liberated.
She's living her truth.
City girl. She's a city girl in her 40s. Like that would be the energy if this was a female. I guarantee, because this falls right in line with this sort of stuff, right? And so I just think it's frustrating how much harm they're doing in these situations and completely missing that this is irrelevant. Like, this is irrelevant to the thing. And coming at a Dr. Andrew Huberman, who's by all measurable accounts like your ally. If you're a feminist, he's actually on your side.
That's a fact.
In these kind of conversations, just creates more vitriol with young men, right? And young men are already becoming more and more red-pilled, more conservative, and young women are going further and further to the left. And so this is the manifestation of it.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Thinking that this affects the quality of his podcast or his studies is the equivalent to taking Alex Hormozy's philosophical life advice seriously. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's not what you go to them for.
Yes. I don't go to Alex Hormozy about philosophy.
Every once in a while, we'll talk about these things.
Yes.
But it's not from a position of authority. It's from a position of personal experience, and I could care less.
Yes.
So it's just weird to be like, oh.
Yep.
People, I think they, not knowing anything about him, think he's like a Jordan Peterson in this space.
Maybe.
When everyone that's familiar with him is like, oh, okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
Go ahead.
Not once were they able to prove misinformation, malinformation, whatever you want to call it. This is not a story. It is a character assassination of, yes, a man who is my friend, but a man who I believe has changed millions of lives for the better. Andrew Huberman does not tell you to do anything. He gives you information that you can research and check for yourself. He gives you protocols like look in the sun in the morning if you want to sleep better, avoid alcohol, and by and large try and live a healthier lifestyle. Or he will interview a world-renowned scholar on the subject, and he will draw out information that might be relevant to you if you want it to be. As far as I'm concerned, that's the only thing that's relevant about him. And if they could find anything he said regarding that, which is wrong or was malicious, I'm all ears and I wouldn't be doing anything like this. They didn't. That's why I'm doing this monologue. Because this was an attempt, for some reason or the other, to take him down for just simply being the most popular health podcaster in the world. He doesn't have to rely on mainstream media to get this information, and I guess that alone is his crime, for which he has now been sentenced and convicted in the court of public opinion by New York Magazine. It's not right. And if you ever benefited from his advice, you should share this with people you know, so the actual truth gets out there. Crystal?
Yeah, shout out to Sagar for defending his friend. Listen, I'll say this. If by the grace of God, our channel gets to a place where we're talked in the same circles, and then these type of hit pieces try to make, I'm going to tell you guys right now, I've been with the same woman since I was 19 years old. I'll be 40 this year, okay? There are no skeletons in my closet. I've been transparent with you guys about all my issues.
Yeah.
I've talked about my struggles with porn. I've talked about my past in the music industry. There's nothing that they have on me. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Okay. So if random women start popping out of thin air saying, I'm telling you guys, this stuff is not true. Okay. And I've been with my wife since I was 19. Prior to that, I dated a Jehovah's Witness and I dated a Christian girl. Okay. And that's it. Okay. I've been with 3 women in my lifetime. Okay. That's it. There's nothing out there. So I'm saying this preemptively. Someone mark this. If 2 years from now we're sitting at a couple million subscribers and all of a sudden friggin' New York Times doesn't want to put me on their bestseller list, so they decide to come after me. I'm saying it here and now. All right. 20 years. And you know what? Listen.
Fake therapist, pseudo guru, Christian, fake pastor, supposedly Christian Ruslan KD. That's what they would do. They'd have to like make up a bunch of.
But it goes to show why following Jesus really is better, because he could have avoided himself this like public smearing. Like if you didn't, unfortunately, he's clearly had some issues that he didn't work through, which has probably caused, if this is true, probably caused him to be a bit of a womanizer, right? Welcome every rapper ever in the mainstream industry, right?
Yeah.
And now this is a story for some reason.
Yeah. And this is why also in your steps to Christian flourishing, healing is number 2.
Absolutely.
Because the goal is that like you heal from your past traumas or the skeletons in your closet, the addictions you have, so that when you work to eat and sow to reap, and you're developing something in the next season, you actually have a lot of those things taken care of.
Yes.
And if you don't
heal,
heal,
then you're likely to continue living as a broken person. Because if you don't heal, you'll discover that those areas that you're suppressing will creep their rear head in some bizarre pocket of your life when you least expect it.
But now you got 1 million followers.
But now now you're successful. Now you're making money. Now you have access. Like you got to work through these things before, because if you got real trauma in your childhood and you're like, I'm good, I'm fine, I guarantee you. And the worst manifestation of this is not to do what he's doing, which is he's more or less being self-destructive.
Yeah.
Right? The worst type of manifestation of this is when you see people who then become abusers themselves. That's when you get the ditties. That's when you get the people that something happened, they're broken, they never dealt with it, and then they go on and they repeat the cycle.
John 5:24, Jesus says, those who believe my message and believe in God who sent me will have eternal life. They will never be condemned for their sins because they have already passed from death to life. And that is the exact theme of our latest collection, the Death to Life collection, available now through Sunday. So get yours now before it's gone forever over at blessgod.shop. I'll see you over there. Peace.